Hey guys, Danny Bird from Bayou Marshall Blades. We're going to talk about angles. There are a ton of angles. We're only going to discuss 5. They are the 5 basic angles, the angles you'll most likely be using in a combative situation. So we're just going to focus on those 5. I'm going to be using a live blade. Okay, I train with live blades quite a bit. I'm not recommending that you do that. If you're at a level where you feel comfortable doing that, have at it. Be careful. God knows I've cut myself more than enough times in the beginning, and hey, even as you get advanced, if you're training with a live blade, you're going to have mishaps. It's just going to happen, and you need to minimize those whenever you can. Anytime I'm going from one particular style of blade to something that is more unorthodox. So for example, if I'm going from a straight blade, and straight blade does not mean fixed blade, it just means the blade is straight. It could be a folding knife. So if I'm going from a straight blade type of knife to let's say a karambit, which is a hook blade, a hawksbill blade as some people like to call it, the way you move with a karambit is a lot different than the way you move with a standard knife. And you need to have a little bit of space between the two, I guess is the right way to say it. I don't usually carry a karambit and a fixed blade and a straight blade, because when you need one or the other, specifically the karambit, if you start using that, and it's hard to keep them separate, and that's when you end up cutting yourself. So what is a karambit? This is a karambit. You notice the blade is curved. It is not straight. This one happens to be the Emerson, and most karambit techniques are not used in a forward grip or a hammer grip. It's just not used that way. You can use it that way, generally not. It's intended to be used, and this is what the ring and the handle's for that index finger to go through like so, and it's carried in what a lot of people call a reverse grip. This is the standard grip for the karambit. Now, if I were using it in a forward grip, I could easily make the angles that we're going to discuss here in a moment. Okay, I could do that. And thrusting with a karambit, say you can't thrust, right, because of this. See, the point is pointed down, you can't really thrust. That's not true. If I'm going to thrust, I'm going to turn, yes, this way. Not going to happen. It doesn't even feel right with this knife. Held like this, a boxing style grip, in this particular forward grip, I simply punch out and in to the target. Out and into the target like so. So now that knife is thrusting into the person, the target. So it can be done. Reverse grip, how the knife is designed to be carried. You have positive retention of the knife. In knife fighting, the non-dominant hand is not back here tucked away. It is out here. It is to be used. It's called, in some arts, the dead hand, but in most Kali systems they call it the live hand, because it is alive. It is actively involved in parrying and so forth. And if you come up to parry a knife, an arm coming in, your weapon coming in at you, you parry. If you do that and you get too fast and you come up here like this, because in normal situations in Filipino arts, you would bring the knife up. You would parry this down and it would come over and you would attack. If you get too ahead of yourself, you can easily snag this arm. And these karambits are unforgiving. It's not a simple cut with a karambit. It is going to be devastating to yourself or to whoever you hit with this thing. So make sure you are careful in what knife you're carrying. Make sure you have a lot of training in it. Get a trainer, especially with these karambits. Any knife really, but with a karambit, get a trainer. Okay, you'll save yourself a lot of pain and heartache. Back to angles. Let's get on these angles. So, I'm going to be using a fixed blade, straight blade knife for this. Angle 1. This is a downward angle, like so. And no, it's not way up here. It could be. The person's not trained. They might bring it way back up here. We can only hope, because now they're really telegraphing. It's going to be a lot slower. It'll be a lot easier for me to defend against. But I always want to assume that the person I'm confronting has some sort of training, and that's going to keep me honest. Okay, so starting from the shoulder, you're coming out and down in an angle, out and down in an angle. You're targeting this whole area right in here, from the neck to the shoulder, because you do have arteries inside the shoulder area, right here where the collarbone is. You've got the subclavian artery, and then you have, of course, you have the internal and external carotid arteries. You even have the jugular, and we'll get into that later. So that angle is an angle 1. So anything coming at me from this direction would be an angle 1. So if I'm coming like this to my attacker, that's an angle 1. An angle 2 is the same thing. It's a backhand, and it is on the right side of my target. That's an angle 1. So, angle 2. So an angle 1 is the downward angle on the the left-hand side of the person. The angle 2 is a backhand diagonal downward angle to the right side. So angle 1, angle 2. Then we have angle 3 and 4 are horizontal slashes to generally the abdomen area, but not particularly to that area. Okay, so an angle 3 would be a horizontal slash from my right hip to left. Turn the knife over, backhand, come back across from my left hip to my right hip. That is a angle 4. So angle 3, angle 4. Notice I'm keeping it tight. Okay, I'm not out here, because as I reach out, I'm at a disadvantage. I'm overextended. It's not a good thing to do. So if they're not close enough to get this with keeping it tight, don't put it out there. So we have an angle 1, we have an angle 2, angle 3, angle 4. As I said before, that angle 3 and 4, that could be straight across here on a high line. It could be straight across here on a low line, or where it's normally intended, on the abdominal, midsection level. So now that's angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4. Angle 5 is a thrust. It can be a high line, a mid-level, or a low line. So angle thrust is simply from the chamber position straight out. That might be to the throat or face. That could be to the chest or abdomen. It could be to the groin or the pelvic floor, the pelvic region, or it could be to the thigh. So the angles are important because it's how we learn to transition from one defense to another. So I may come in, suppose he's coming in with an angle 1, maybe he's got a crowbar, maybe he's got a pipe, or he may have a machete or something like that. It doesn't really matter what the weapon is. It's a weapon that can do you harm. This is the weapon you have at that time. So he's coming in, and let's say he's coming in with an angle 1, and we'll assume that he knows what he's doing. He's got some training, so he knows not to be way out here with it. So as he comes in, I'm going to step off 45 degrees. I'm going to have this arm up, this protection against he's going for this area, remember? So I want to have this up here. And I want to have this out like this because the flexor tendons are right on the inside of the arm. Of course on the top as well, but on the inside of the arm, and that controls your ability to grip and hold on to things. You don't want to, not a good idea to sacrifice anything, but if I've got to shield myself, I'm not going to do it this way. I'm going to do it this way because on the back side is the extensors. If I lose those, I still have the flexor tendons, and that will allow me to hold and control the weapon. This acts as somewhat of a shield, okay? I'm not suggesting you think of it as a shield, but it will act as somewhat of a shield. This is actually going to be, it's a live hand in this case because it's my non-dominant hand, and it is going to be actively engaged in controlling his weapon arm. I'm trying to think of the best terms to use. So as he comes in, I'm gonna come up, chamber, in the chamber position, and I'm going to do an angle 1. It's not going toward the right side of his neck. It's going toward the inside of that weapon arm. It's going to cut right in here, either the flexors or the inside of the elbow where the bicep tendon's at. So I'm going to cut. I will then transition this blade over by rotating the wrist, and this hand will grab the weapon arm his weapon arm that I just cut. And from here, I will do an angle 4 across his abdomen. Just like that. Now, from here, I can move in. I'm going to step back a little bit. So from here, I can now move in and thrust. In this case, I would thrust low. If you're going to do that, change your blade. Rotate the blade to edge up in this location, in this position. Now I'll explain that in just a second. So from here, slashing the abdomen, turn, and come up to the perineum, which is right between the legs. Perineum is the strongest tendon in the body, and if that is severed, he's going to drop. He has no control over that. It's biomechanical. If you look up anything to do with Michael Janet, he is a great technician, and he works with Spyderco a lot. He has his own training center, and he really pioneered the biomechanical. Him and Bram Frank, either one of those two really talk a lot about biomechanical cutting. We'll get into that later. So let's get back to the angle. So I'm doing an angle 1. It's just a check. Slashing the inside of his forearm. This comes up check. This knife rotates over. Palm down. Angle 4. Change the blade to the edge up. Come under. And that's an angle 5. It's a low angle 5. Why do I want the edge up? Because when I thrust in, he's going to instinctually fall back after I made this thrust or start to go down. It's almost instinctual on your part to pull back as you go to pull out. And when you do with the edge up, you're going to get more destruction on the target. So hopefully you can see right there, I combine, you don't have to go angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4, and angle 5. It's not going to happen that way in reality, so don't worry about that in training. Start off that way just so you can get the feel of the angles. And remember, keep it tight. I'm not out here doing all this. No. It's tight. Imagine yourself in a hallway. Get a trainer, not a live blade. Get in a hallway, make sure there's no one else, no pets or anything like that in the area, and get in a hallway and practice these angles. The hallway will keep you honest, because you come way out here, you'll be hitting the wall. You won't. It'll teach you real quick, like keep that in close. If you have a full length mirror, get in front of a mirror and do this. So angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4. Angle 5, and that can be mid, low, again, high line, whatever you need to do. Practice the angles, because from there, after you get those basics down, you'll be able to go from an angle 1 to an angle 4 to an angle 5. You'll be able to go from an angle 1 to an angle 2 to an angle 5. Reverse grip. Can you do it on reverse grip? Of course you can. Some of the angles will seem awkward. So an angle 1, not a problem. Angle 2 just doesn't feel as good, but if you're close enough to the target, you can do an angle 2. Angle 3, not a problem. Angle 4, not really a problem. Angle 5, the thrust. You're gonna have to change your body positioning a little bit for that. Now, sure, I can do this. I can do that. So I'm not changing my body position there that much. But say I do a slash on an angle 3, and then I attempt to do an angle 5 thrust. It's going to come most likely after I go back for an angle 4. So an angle 3, angle 4, I might move in. This hand's going to come up. I'm trying not to block the camera. This hand would come up to protect me, also to help throw the person off balance, also to get their hands to come up so that I can come in low and hit the inside the thigh. Now, these angles will train you how to make your attacker respond in a certain manner so that you can attack a certain target. So as you practice these angles, you'll start to learn that. You have to learn a person's natural instincts. If you try to punch somebody, slap somebody in the face, for example, they're going to bring their hands up to defend. And if you're close to them, they're probably going to rock back a little bit. When they rock back, what are they doing? Well, one thing, their own hands are somewhat shielding their face so they can't really see you. The other thing is they're extending their abdomen. And if you're unfortunately like myself and you have a little too much abdomen down there, that's not a good thing. So, gotta be able to pick it yourself, guys. So, when they do this, that opens this up. And it also blocks their view of what's going on. You have to do this in seconds, okay? Fractions of a second even. So if I'm here and I want to get a slash to that abdomen, I'm going to maybe come out like this. Maybe I'm going to do a punch, a quick jab. If I hit them, that's great. But if I don't, I get their hands to come up. Now I can come in for an angle 3 on a reverse grip. So they brought their arms up to defend themselves, to protect themselves, and that opens another target area. It's the target I wanted to get in the first place. Same thing if I want to hit a high line target. I may go in, I may fake. If I end up getting it, fine, but I may fake toward the midline to get them to try to hit my arm to protect themselves. And all I'm doing is, when I come in, their hand comes down, I change the angle. Here's another thing on that, on changing the angles. Trying to think the best way to demonstrate this for you from this viewpoint. You will see some people teaching empty hand knife tactics. Really bad idea. You don't have any other choice. Yes, it's not a bad idea to know some, but the chances of success are highly unlikely. And if you haven't already thought about this, you might want to think about it now. In knife fighting, you're going to get cut. What you don't want to do is get stabbed. You are 30% more likely to die from a single stab wound than you are from a slash. Keep that in mind. People think knives aren't dangerous. Well, you are 40% more likely to die from a single stab wound than you are from a single gunshot wound. Think about that. Over 87% of people are shot with a firearm. And I know it's YouTube, I gotta watch what I say with that. We'll kind of call that a high velocity lead dispenser. If you are hit with one of those, you have an 87% chance of survival. But if you are stabbed, you have about a 40% chance of not surviving. You're 40% more likely not to survive, put it that way. So, back to the angles. If I come in for a thrust on an angle, high-end angle like this, this is not an angle one, we'll get into it later, but we'll just call it basically angle one because it's not it is the same motion, but it's coming in inverted because it's a thrust. Okay, it can still be classified as an angle one. So when you come in and the person blocks, they put their hand up and block, all I have to do now, as soon as I feel contact here, I feel stoppage, is turn and slash through the arm. So I'm still on the angle one, aren't I? I'm still downward angle on a thrust. Feel a stoppage. Downward angle on a slash, on a downward diagonal angle. So it's still an angle one. It starts off as an angle one. I meet an interruption. I cut through. It's still an angle one. So you see how the angles are important. It teaches you how to keep the knife flowing, so that when you can do all different angles as you meet different circumstances. Combat's fluid. Things change. Things don't go the way you scripted them in your mind, although you should be trying to come up with different ways that you could be attacked, how they're going to respond, so that when something happens in a combative situation, your mind doesn't freeze up. You don't go what they call code black, because your brain says, hey, we've already been here. We've done this. This is not new. So angles are important. You need to practice it. So I hope this was beneficial. I'm trying to keep this video somewhat short, and I don't even know what I'm doing now. So guys, I hope you got something out of this. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let's get the content out, and we can learn together. So if there's things that you know that you want to share that with us. We'll dissect that if we can. I've been doing this for 50 years now, probably 35 of which have been to the point of obsession, put it that way. And I have the scars to prove it. Training with a live blade is highly dangerous. Okay, it's not something you can really get around, I would say personally, unless your trainer is identical to your live blade. You can then, but keep in mind with this when it comes to trainers. In your head, that trainer should be a live blade. In your head. Because if it's not, you may get sloppy, especially if you're starting to get tired. You might get sloppy, and you'll start doing things, you'll start creating bad habits. When you transition over to a live blade, those habits are still there. The trainer's no longer there. You now have the live blade, but the habits are still there. So be careful, guys. I don't want to see anybody getting injured if you don't have to. If we can minimize that, that's what we need to do. So understand, when you see me using a live blade, it's because I've done it for a long time, and I'm not saying it's the best thing to do. I can't stress enough how much you need to use a trainer, please. So anyhow, Danny Bird, Bayou Marshall Blades. Stay safe and stay sharp.